Happy to be joined by Curtis Granderson in studio for another segment. This is Rahimi and Harris with Russ Dorsey on 670 The Score. And Curtis is here promoting the work of what his foundation, the Chicago Baseball and Educational Academy, does for their kids, thanks in part to the big National Sports Collectors Convention in Rosemount that's going on July 30th through August 3rd. That organization does a lot for the community. I love this part of it. Our hook is sports and baseball, but education is the focus, offering free year-round opportunities to children from under-resourced neighborhoods, college readiness activities, career exposure, leadership and workforce skills, social emotional learning, which I think is really huge for kids now, and 35 free clinics annually for skill building, health, and mentorship. What has this done to help these individuals?
It's been so inspiring because when the idea came to build the stadium at UIC in 2015, I said, hey, I'm all for helping the university go, but this has got to be more than just a baseball field because the season's only so long. Can we open this up for the community? And UIC said, absolutely, let's do it. So not only do we have the stadium, which I argue has the best view in all of baseball. Absolutely. So if you haven't been there, definitely come on out and check out the stadium at UIC. But we also have indoor. Large, full, major league size infield on the indoor side. And the great thing about it is when I was younger, baseball wasn't a year-round activity. It is now, and we all know it gets cold here in Chicago. So to have indoor space available, and there's only 3 large spaces in the city of Chicago, we're the only one that offers it up for free. So the cool thing is we have baseball and softball, ages 8 to 18, on campus year-round. And while on campus, they're getting also introduced to all these other things, whether it's a campus tour. Some of them, it's their first time ever stepping foot on a college campus through CBEA. Some of them are going to get out there and get corporate views and interviews. We partner with EY, so they got a chance to go and see what it's like to get into that space. The social emotional learning part of it, we've talked a lot about the youth. But if you are a parent and you drop your kid off and you stick around, you're going to get it as well. And it's been eye-opening for them because some of these parents also have to realize how their actions are affecting the kids when it comes to the different activities. Are you that intense parent? Are you a little too much? Do you need to just pull back and let your child guide that ship when it comes to how they're feeling about this sport? And having somebody there like Dr. Wekesser, who has graduated from Michigan State, to provide that information for these parents has also been eye-opening. So it's been a combination of a number of different things, just getting these kids out there with the idea first being baseball and softball, but adding all these other different things to it so they can take that home.
Philanthropy has always been something that you cared about and giving back to people. And even with all your accolades, the Roberto Clemente Award is something that, really means a lot to you. What was the point, whether it was before you got to the big leagues or even in life, where you said, okay, if I get to the level I want to get to, I want to give back?
You know what? If you look back, if you were a student athlete at the high school level, part of your responsibility, you were supposed to have your community give back piece, whether it was a car wash, whether it was a canned food drive, whether it was a food giveaway, like that was part of your requirement to be on the team. Mm-hmm. Some people didn't take it as seriously as others, but I remembered those. And I remember going to homes and handing out turkeys. And this one lady one time answered the door and she said, "How come you're at my house?" I said, "Hey, we have something here for you." She said, "Is this for me?" And it was a turkey and it had all the sides and the trimmings and everything. And she said, and she started crying. And I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "I wasn't sure how I was going to feed the family for Thanksgiving." And that was something that always stuck to me, even as a high schooler. So as I got to college at UIC, it was the same thing. We did different things throughout the community. Then as a pro, it just became part of what you do. So in 2007, I started the Curtis Granderson Foundation, the Grandkids Foundation. And it was all about, again, continuing to get kids active, showing the importance of education, partnering with Mariano's to help fight food insecurity. So it's just kind of always been around me, but I think it goes back to just being a student athlete, and that was part of it. So for all the parents listening and all the students out there, don't forget that's part of your responsibility as well.
Well, that empathy goes miles. We love talking to you about all of the different ways you're inspired, and thank you for sharing that with us. Now I have to get to a rough question that was suggested by your associate over here, Chris. The question is, ask Curtis about his UIC basketball career.
So my basketball career was this close to becoming a reality. I had hoop dreams, like I told you. I wanted to be a Division I college basketball player. And the legendary coach, Jimmy Collins, is the reason why I signed at UIC to play baseball. Coach D, the baseball coach, had set up a meeting with Coach Jimmy Collins and said, hey, just give him a chance to try out for the team. That's all I wanted. Tell me I'm not good enough, and I'm good with that. So Illinois State was recruiting me, and they told me, no, you only can play baseball. So I said, all right, I'm out. And it came down to UIC and Northern Illinois. And once they got me the meeting with Jimmy Collins, I said, I'm coming here. So Jimmy Collins had me work out with the basketball team. I was like, all right, I think I can hang enough. Now, mind you, they have Martell Bailey. They have Cedric Banks from Westinghouse. This is one of the best point guard duos in the city, in the state, are also incoming first-year students with me. I know I'm not going to play over them, but I could potentially be on the team with them. And John Schneiderman had just won the three-point contest down at state. So these are the three that I'm going up against. But if I can just be that 15th person on the team, then I count this as a success. So the next day, I have fall baseball practice. I'm going to finish that and do my first official basketball practice. I break my thumb in the baseball practice that day, and that ended my hoop dreams. I come in, tell Coach Collins, broke the thumb. That's as far as it got. But keep in mind, I mean, those UIC teams were good. They went to the tournament 2 out of the 4 years I was a student. They even got a 12 seed one year. So I wasn't going to play, but I just wanted to be on the team. That's it.
At what point did you realize that it was okay? Like, your baseball career paid off tenfold, but when were you okay with that?
I loved baseball as much as basketball. I just thought that, man, if I could do that, that would be great. Because keep in mind, I'm already here on a baseball scholarship. Like, I'm doing that. But it's like, if I could do that and the basketball side, that would be the icing on the cake. So as soon as I broke my thumb, I remember coming in, I sat down with Coach Collins. I said, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Let me just focus on baseball. And literally, it was like that. And I had to obviously rehab my thumb. Then the baseball career ended up taking off from that point.
I want to ask you about a guy that you had an opportunity to play with as a teammate, but is also being inducted at Cooperstown to the Hall of Fame this weekend in CC Sabathia. I've gotten to know CC after he was done playing, but as a guy who played with him and against him, in your eyes, did you always know, okay, this is one of the best pitchers I have ever seen?
Well, again, going back to another conversation, CC Sabathia had a football scholarship, so another dual sport athlete, and played basketball. So very athletic, very intimidating, because he's a big individual. He's like 6'6", 280-ish pounds, depending when he was pitching. And he's standing on the mound with that hat cocked to the California left-hand side.
That Vallejo came out.
It came out. It had to let you know that Bay Area. And he would stand on there with that physical presence. And he was one of the players that showed his emotions. So if he struck you out, he pumped you up. He dropped a couple F-bombs. He did all that stuff on the field. So physically looking at him, he had everything. And then, of course, the numbers backed it up. Cy Young, winning championships, strikeouts. He also hit home runs. So when you look at the number of left-handers that have slightly better numbers than him, they're Hall of Famers. Then you look at left-handers whose numbers aren't as good as his. Some of them are Hall of Famers. I'm like, oh, he's a shoo-in. So to the fact that I heard some people say, well, he may not get in, I'm just so happy that he was a first ballot and he's going to get a chance to go in, and just a great individual, father, teammate, athlete. Just so cool to get a chance to see that happen.
Do you think we're ever going to have another 3,000 strikeout pitcher again? Speaking of CC's numbers.
So we have, I think, two close. It's Garrett Cole and...
Is it Sale? Off the top
Sale,
of my head.
yeah,
Sale's
Chris Sale.
close, yeah.
So Sale's obviously, the older of the two, so that's going to be a challenge. I think that the issue is going to be you need length and you need volume.
Yeah.
So if you're Garrett Cole, you got to drop a couple 200 strikeouts in there, 3, maybe 4 more times. Not to say that it can't be done, but you got to stay healthy in order to be able to do it. And you got to be on the field in order to do it. And you still got to get strikeouts, especially now, even though strikeouts are going up, more players are swinging early in the count. So they may just put the ball in play a little bit more. So I don't know if we'll get to 3,000. I think a lot of these records that we've seen are going to be really difficult to break, especially when you look at what needs to be done. Like, look at 700 home runs. I think Giancarlo Stanton is the closest right now. He's still like 200 away. That's a lot of home runs, and he's not getting younger. Father Time is undefeated in this game. So if you take a Bryce Harper or even a Mike Trout and go, okay, they're about 400 or 500 away. So we do the math. Okay, they need a couple 10 seasons in a row at 40 apiece as they get older and older and older. So at 35, 36, 37, 38, and that's where the challenge comes in, I think.
And you think about a guy like Hank Aaron to get to that number with no 50 home run seasons,
Right,
is insane. But we were talking about, the deadline coming up in 10 days. It's a lot on the show today, what teams might do what, some of the best teams in baseball. From a player's perspective, you're week 10 days away from the deadline. I think to that 2012 team that you guys had in New York that ended up in the ALCS, when you know that the team is good enough to win the World Series and you're looking around like, all right, well, there are additions coming in. Like, what is that mindset like a week before?
It's nervous, it's excitement, and it's something you really can't control. You continue to go out there and keep playing to give your team the pressure to make the move that they should be making, whatever that happens to be. But then you're still in the dark. They don't come down and talk to you and say, hey, what do you think we should get? Or who do you think? Occasionally, if you've been there for a very long time, so I assume Derek Jeter was probably, approached and said, hey, we're thinking about acquiring this player. What do you got on this player? So they may have asked him, but I don't know. That's just me speculating. I was never asked on any of the teams that I was a part of. But, that stuff happens and then you see it and then the deadline ends and either you thought you made a lot or you didn't. And probably the biggest one for me was in 2015. We're with the Mets and we're waiting and we're getting hot and the deadline ends and nothing has happened.
Yeah.
And then they announce we traded for Yoenis Cespedes and we go, okay, did this just happen? And we're literally about to go on the field for batting practice to start our game that day, but it hasn't really been announced. So we've also seen the flip that I told you about with Wilmer Flores thinking he got traded and he didn't. So we didn't know if it was true or not. And sure enough, Cespedes comes in and boom, we take off and we end up in the World Series in 2015.
I think that's a really good example because you had so many other years in your career to back it up with, oh, hell, this is happening. And then also the excitement that was in New York at that time that year, because I was working part-time at MLB Network at the time. And I remember when the Mets are good, Yankees, I feel like, is a different vibe in New York, but when the Mets are good, New York is a different place. It sounds crazy if you don't know, but I feel like the vibe was very different that year. One of the first that the Mets fans felt like they were really in it.
It is, and if you go around New York around the marathon time, which is in October, I'm staying on 67th and 1st, which is on the Upper East Side. It's like mile, I think, 20 of the marathon. And I got to get some food before the game. So I'm going to get some food. Everyone's running. They got their gear on. They got the outfits. And it's like Mets jacket, Mets hat, Mets jacket, Mets hat. And it's everywhere. And I'm like, okay, did everyone just have these in their closets and pull them out? Where did everyone get all this Mets gear? So when I signed with the Mets, fans there told me, the comment that I said that everyone got on me for was that true New Yorkers are Mets fans. This is something I heard. This wasn't something that I was assuming, but when I heard that and then I saw it play out, like there are a lot of people that will come to New York and go, oh, I got to get a New York hat. I'm like, that's a Yankee hat. It is very iconic. It is very popular. But if you see somebody with a Mets hat, that is not an accident. That is purpose. That is somebody in that family going, I've been a diehard for very long. So when those fans said our team is good, we're going to let you know and we're going to show it up. Chris Rock is out there and he's celebrating and all these celebs are coming out and the place was rocking. It was a fun time to be there.
And I guess you even see with another teammate of yours, David Wright, with the reception he got this weekend, getting his number retired. And people will say, David Wright didn't win a World Series and wasn't an MVP, not going to be a Hall of Famer. But you see that reception for a guy that was the original Captain America, the World Baseball Classic. And you can kind of see what you're talking about in terms of like how New York treats guys that play for the Mets.
Yeah, there's so many iconic players that they love and get around. Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry both played on both teams, and they're loved by all the fans out there. David Wright, to name one of my favorites, Big Sexy Bartolo Colon got to do it on both sides. And if you go out there and you can produce and play in one of the most difficult markets in sports, I think they respect that. I think they love that, and you'll definitely be treated as such and get a response like David Wright got.
This has been a wonderful time, as it always is, talking to Curtis Granderson. Thank you so much for doing this.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And again, to mention again, to learn more about that auction that he talked about helping the Chicago Baseball and Educational Academy, you can go to CBEA. So that's the acronym for the Academy, UIC like the school, CBEAUIC.org. The auction that is fundraising is currently underway. It ends at 9 o'clock on August 4th. And then additionally, check out the National Sports Collectors Convention, July 30th through August 3rd. That's talked about a lot, and it's in Rosemont, as it usually tends to be. Anything else you want to let them know about?
Hey, this is a great cause. What a better way to start a business than by collecting cards. So help support CBEAUIC.org.
The man is always for the kids. We have some Bears news coming up. Apparently a big name receiver made a visit to Hallis Hall. So we will get the latest on that. And thanks again to Curtis Granderson for joining Rahimi and Harris on 670 The Score as you're listening on the Odyssey and iHeartRadio apps.